Hi guys, and welcome to my channel, Krinsky23, where we power up our game and level up our lives. And one of the things I like to do here is read Harry Potter. So we are going to be reading Chapter 3 of The Prisoner of Azkaban. Look, I've turned around my video camera so you can actually read and see the image properly. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so in the last chapter, Chapter 2, Harry was working really hard to behave himself while Aunt Marge was visiting the Dursleys. And Aunt Marge is one of the most vile people. She's maybe even more vile than Uncle Dursley. Yeah, not good. She's not a good person, okay? Harry did not last very long. Well, actually, no, you know what? Let's give him more credit than that. He did last until the last day of her being there, so I guess that's good. You know, he didn't last the whole time, though. And because of that, he ended up fleeing the Dursleys' house in the middle of the night and just decided to leave. Is he never returning? Maybe? I guess so. I don't know. He just left in the middle of the night. I don't know where he's gonna go. I don't know what he's gonna do. But he left. Okay, let's get to chapter 3. So here's our book. And chapter 3 is called The Night Bus. Harry was several streets away before he collapsed on a low wall in Magnolia Crescent. Panting from the effort of dragging his trunk, he sat quite still, anger still surging through him, listening to the frantic thumping of his heart. But after 10 minutes, alone in the dark street, a new emotion overtook him. Panic. Whichever way he looked at it, he had never been in a worse fix. He was stranded, quite alone, in the dark Muggle world, with absolutely nowhere to go. And the worst of it was he had just done serious magic, which meant that he was almost certainly expelled from Hogwarts. He had broken the decree for the restriction of underage wizardry so badly that he was surprised the Ministry of Magic representatives weren't swooping down on him where he sat. Harry shivered and looked up and down Magnolia Crescent. What was going to happen to him? Would he be arrested? Or would he simply be outlawed from the wizarding world? He thought of Ron and Hermione, and his heart sank even lower. Harry was sure that, criminal or not, Ron and Hermione would want to help him now. But they were both abroad, and with Hedwig gone, he had no means of contacting them. He didn't have any Muggle money either. There was a little wizard gold in the money bag at the bottom of his trunk, but the rest of his fortune his parents had left him was stored in a vault at Gringotts Wizarding Bank. Trying to remember what happened to Hedwig. How is Hedwig gone? So, oh yeah, the last chapter we ended, he seized Hedwig's empty cage. Oh right, because Uncle Vernon did allow Harry to let Hedwig out sometimes, so she must have been out hunting. What is this going on here in my screen? Something. Oh, it's the book. Oh, I was like, what is that? It is the book. Don't worry, everyone. It's fine. It's just a book. Okay. Okay, so Hedwig is gone because she is let out. Uncle Vernon said she could go out. So she's just out and about, being an owl, having freedom. So she probably doesn't know that Harry was kicked out of the house or left the house, so how will Hedwig find him? And he doesn't have her right now, so that's why he can't contact his friends. He doesn't have a cell phone. They didn't have cell phones when this book was written. When was this book written? How old was I? I don't know. I mean, technically they did have cell phones because they had cell phones for a while, but people didn't really have cell phones at this time, okay? And especially not wizards. So he could not contact them. And this is his invisible magic toy. That he doesn't want to eat right now, I guess. Fine, you don't have to eat it if you don't want to. His name is Gimli. And he is a dwarf. I mean, technically he is a dwarf. He is a corgi. And corgi means dwarf in some language. This is how big he is. Very small. But he's very heavy already. He's a bulky puppy. Yes, he's such a good puppy. And as you can see, if he doesn't have something to chew, then he will bite you. Like this. And sometimes it doesn't hurt, and sometimes it really hurts. So you have to be careful. And he has a green collar, as you can tell, because it's invisible. What else do you need to know about Gimli? He is 3.5 months old. And he's a Pembroke Corgi. Tricolor, which means he has 3 colors. What is that sound? Left him money in a vault. That's what you're reading. Okay, so the rest of the fortune his parents had left him was stored in a vault at Gringotts Wizarding Bank in London. He'd never be able to drag his trunk all the way to London unless he looked down at his wand, which he was still clutching in his hand. If he was already expelled, his heart was now thumping painfully fast. A bit more magic couldn't hurt. Am I getting out of the picture? I am. I'm just gonna scoot over this way. Harry, that's a slippery slope. He had the invisibility cloak he'd inherited from his father. What if he bewitched the trunk to make it feather-light, tied it to his broomstick, covered himself in the cloak, and flew to London? Then he could get the rest of his money out of the vault and begin his life as an outcast. It was a horrible prospect, but he couldn't sit on this wall forever, or he'd find himself trying to explain to Muggle police why he was out in dead of night with a trunk full of spellbooks and a broomstick. Yes, not good. Harry opened his trunk again and pushed the contents aside, looking for the invisibility cloak. But before he had found it, he straightened up suddenly, looking around once more. A funny prickling on the back of his neck had made Harry feel he was being watched, but the street appeared to be deserted, and no light shone from any of the large square houses. He bent over his trunk again, but almost immediately stood up once more. His hand clenched on his wand. He had sensed rather than heard it. Someone or something was standing in the narrow gap between the garage and the fence behind him. Harry squinted at the back alleyway. If only it would move, then he'd know whether it was just a stray cat or something else. "Lumos," Harry muttered, and a light appeared at the end of his wand, almost dazzling him. He held it high over his head, and the pebble-dashed walls of number 2 suddenly sparkled. The garage door gleamed, and between them, Harry saw quite distinctly the hulking outline of something very big, with wide, gleaming eyes. Oh, that's scary. Harry stepped backwards. His legs hit his trunk, and he tripped. His wand flew out of his hand. As he flung out an arm to break the fall, he landed hard in the gutter. There was a deafening bang, and Harry threw up his hands to shield his eyes against a sudden blinding light. With a yell, he rolled back onto the pavement just in time. A second later, a gigantic pair of wheels and headlights had screeched to a halt exactly where Harry had just been lying. They belonged, as Harry saw when he raised his head, to a triple-decker, violently purple bus, which had appeared out of thin air. Gold lettering over the windscreen spelled, "The Night Bus." For a split second, Harry wondered if he had been knocked silly by this fall. Then, a conductor in purple uniform leapt out of the bus and began to speak loudly to the night. And here's the picture of what Harry saw in the bush before the bus arrived. Welcome Welcome to the night bus, emergency transport for stranded witch or wizard. Just stick out your wand hand, step on board, and we can take you anywhere you want to go. My name is Stan Shunpike, and I will be your conductor this eve. The conductor stopped abruptly. He had just caught sight of Harry, who was still sitting on the ground. Harry snatched up his wand again and scrambled to his feet. Close to, he saw that Stan Shunpike was only a few years older than he was, 18 or 19 at most, with large protruding ears and a few fair pimples. "What were you doing down there?" said Stan, dropping his professional manner. "Fell over," said Harry. "True fall over for?" sniggered Stan. "Didn't do it on purpose," said Harry, annoyed. One of the knees in his jeans was torn, and the hand he had thrown out to break his fall was bleeding. He suddenly remembered why he had fallen over, and turned around quickly to stare at the alleyway between the garage and fence. The night bus's headlamps were flooding with light, and it was empty. "What you looking at?" said Stan. "There was a big, black thing," said Harry, pointing uncertainly into the gap. "Like a dog, but massive." He looked around at Stan, whose mouth was slightly open, with a feeling of unease. Harry saw Stan's eyes move to the scar on Harry's forehead. "What's that on your head?" said Stan abruptly. "Nothing," said Harry quickly, flattening his hair over his scar. If the Ministry of Magic was looking for him, he didn't want to make it too easy for them. "What's your name?" Stan persisted. "Neville Longbottom," said Harry, saying the first name that came to his mind. So this bus," he went on quickly, hoping to distract Stan. "Did you say it goes anywhere?" "Yep," said Stan proudly. "Anywhere you like, long as it's on land. Can't do nothing on the water." "Here," he said, looking suspiciously again. "You did flag us down, didn't ya? Stick out your wand and didn't ya?" "Yes," said Harry quickly. "Listen, how much would it take to get to London?" 11 sickles, said Stan. "But for 13, you get a chocolate. And for 15, you get a water bottle and a toothbrush in the colour of your choice." Harry rummaged once more in his trunk, extracted his money bag, and shoved some silver in Stan's hand. He and Stan then lifted his trunk, with Hedwig's cage balanced on top, up the steps of the bus. There were no seats. Instead, half a dozen brass bedsteads stood beside the curtained windows. Candles were burning in brackets beside each bed, illuminating the wood-paneled walls. A tiny wizard in a nightcap at the rear of the bus. "Oh, no, thanks, I'm pickling some slugs," and rolled over in his sleep.